It's incredible to think that there was a combined total of over 341 deaths across the 3 shows that stem from the Vampire Diaries universe. I've been compiling lists of the death toll from different species across the franchise, and if you're not already aware, I'll be covering every death from the werewolves, witches, hybrids, humans, and in today's case, vampires, of which the death toll stands at 67. It really is mind-blowing to think that there are even 67 vampires in the series if we disregard the ones that are actually still alive. Anyway, here is all 67 vampire deaths explained. We'll start off with Lexi Bronson. The fan favourite had been Stefan's best friend for over a century and was staked by Damon Salvatore to take the attention of him and Stefan being back in town. Logan Fell was killed by Alaric after transitioning into something he once swore to destroy. He's my least favourite character in the entire show. Then we had Elena's little stalker Noah, who was staked by Stefan Salvatore. Ben McKittrick was also a little weird if you ask me. He was turned by Annabelle and he was staked by the much stronger Stefan. The tomb vampire Bethan was staked and killed by Stefan Salvatore after wanting revenge for her entrapment in the tomb. Frederick, her partner, then tortured Stefan for an entire day before being killed by Damon. Then we have Henry, who was staked and killed by Alaric Saltzman. Harper, Pearl and Anna were all staked and killed by John Gilbert. The rest of the tomb vampires were all staked and or burned by Damon Salvatore, Alaric Saltzman and the Founders Council. Poor Trevor was decapitated by Elijah Michelson in the first proper display of power as an original. Slater staked himself through the heart after being compelled to do so by Elijah. Cody Weber had his heart ripped out by Elijah Michelson. Rose was then staked and killed by Damon Salvatore. Isabel Fleming, Elena's birth mother, was killed from sunlight exposure after Niklaus Michelson compelled her to remove her daylight necklace. Jenna Summers killed by Niklaus Michelson. She transitioned into a vampire before being staked by Klaus afterwards. We have Bill Forbes killed by Alaric Saltzman with vampire blood in his system, but ultimately failed to transition. Sage, Finn's maid, died as a result of a bloodline death when Finn was killed. Troy suffered the same fate as a result of the bloodline death. Will had his heart ripped out by Damon Salvatore to prevent Rebecca Michelson getting information from him on the whereabouts of the cure. Jesse, the vampire who drank vampire blood, was staked and killed by Elena Gilbert. Joey was another Augustine vampire who was decapitated by Damon Salvatore. Farmer John initially made a vampire by Enzo, but was decapitated by Damon. Nadia Petrova, Catherine's daughter, died after being bitten by the hybrid bite of Tyler Lockwood. Thierry Vancoeur was initially set to die after being bitten by Klaus, only to be healed by him. His heart was torn out, however, by Elijah Michelson. Then we have Kieran O'Connell. He was a priest with a dark past. He was the priest in charge when a mass massacre occurred at the hands of Sean O'Connell, who was hexed. He was staked and killed by Klaus. Diego was Marcel's right-hand man. He becomes mortally wounded by a Guerrero werewolf bite before being killed by Michael after he's resurrected. Joe Dalton was killed by the hypertoxic werewolf bite. Ivy was Stefan's ex who transitioned after being turned by Enzo. The magic purification spell finished her off when Trip took her across the border. Colin Phelps was the cancer patient turned vampire in an attempt to cure the disease by Caroline. His heart was ripped out by Damon to end his suffering. Trip Cook enjoyed killing vampires with the purification spell intact. After the spell was lifted, he was killed by Lorenzo St. John. Lenore was killed in the magical explosion conjured by Freya Michelson. Michael, the vampire who hunts vampires, was staked with the white oak stake and killed by his son Niklaus Michelson. Gia died from exposure to sunlight after she was compelled to do so by Klaus Michelson. Mohinder was an ancient vampire who drank vampire blood, though he was killed by Tristan de Martel, who violently extracted his heart. The unknown vampire in Oscar's body, he was staked and killed by Enzo St. John. Florence, who occupied Joe's body, she just deceased as her vampire soul could not survive in a human body. Shen Min actually killed himself by removing his daylight ring in an effort to combat Elijah Michelson's compulsion, as the latter wanted information on the Trinity. Several members of the Strix were all killed by Rebecca Michelson. Anton was staked and killed by Klaus after refusing to tell him where Kami was. Lillian Salvatore, Damon and Stefan's mum. She staked herself in order to kill Julian, who she still believed was linked to him. Ellis had his heart ripped out by Damon Salvatore. Kyle was decapitated by Damon Salvatore. Then the vampire fighter who fought Damon in the ring had his heart ripped out by the latter. The vampire in Doug's house was killed by a gunshot wound with a wooden bullet by Matt Donovan. Julian. Not many of us liked Julian that much. He was stabbed with the Phoenix sword by Reina Cruz. He was then resurrected by the heretics and then staked and killed by Stefan Salvatore. Aya was staked and killed by Haley. Sean was killed by a gunshot wound with a wooden bullet by Penny Arrays. Crystal and 4 vampires of Julian's army were also killed by gunshot wound with a wooden bullet at the hands of Reina Cruz. Finn Michelson was staked by Matt Donovan, which caused a bloodline death. He was resurrected from the other side by his mother Esther, possessing the body of Vincent Griffith, but was killed again by Lucian's enhanced werewolf bite. Wyatt was killed by gunshot wound with a wooden bullet by Alaric Saltzman. Ashlyn was stabbed and killed by the members of the Armory. Camille O'Connell was killed by an enhanced werewolf bite at the hands of Lucian. Violet Fell was staked and killed by Stefan Salvatore. Lorenzo St. John, the most heartbreaking death if you ask me. He had his heart torn out by Stefan while he was waiting on Bonnie. Vicky Donovan was staked and killed by Stefan Salvatore. She escaped from Cade's hell, then killed herself. Greta Sienna was killed by exposure to sunlight at the hands of Haley. Then Haley herself burned in the sunlight. She sacrificed herself after having her werewolf side bound. Elijah Michelson and Klaus Michelson both killed each other with the White Oak stake. Sebastian died due to the implosion of the 2018 Prism World. Carnival Barker died from the telekinetic decapitation by Hope Michelson. And the last death I have recorded was Magnus the Magnificent, who was dismembered and killed by Hope and Lizzie Saltzman with a saw. There you have it everyone, all 67 vampire deaths from the 3 shows across the Vampire Diaries universe. Now they're not all in order, I wanted to change it up a little bit to go back and forward between shows. Make sure to check out the rest of the videos I'll be making on the death toll of other species from the series. Thank you so much for watching, make sure to hit that like button, you have no idea how much it helps the algorithm help this video to grow. And be sure to subscribe if you want to continue this journey with me. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you all in the very next video.